Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst, here I am, John Sneisen, and let's talk about India, as we have so many times in the past, John. There are some serious problems coming out of the Indian economy. It's not to be surprising at all. I mean, this is the economy that pushed so wholeheartedly towards the cashless system that's completely centralized. They like to centralize everything, but the Indian people we've yet to see them actually take it. They don't take things lying down in India, so thank God for that. But let's get into this story here out of CNBC, which says ratings agency Moody's downgrades India's outlook from stable to negative. And as the article goes into, ratings agency Moody's downgraded its outlook on India's ratings Thursday from stable to negative, citing increasing risks that the country's economic growth will remain materially lower than in the past. Moody's said the change partly reflected lower government and policy effectiveness in addressing economic and institutional weaknesses that led to a rise in the already high levels of the debt burden. India is undergoing a significant slowdown. Its economic growth hit a 6-year low in the April to June quarter, during which the economy grew 5% from a year ago. An ongoing crisis in the finance sector has hamstrung lending, impacting investments, while recent policy reforms have left small and medium businesses reeling. Moreover, the Indian economy is also struggling to create enough jobs for its workforce. And I quote, "While government measures to support the economy should help to reduce the depth and duration of India's growth slowdown, prolonged financial stress among rural households, weak job creation, and more recently, a credit crunch among non-bank financial institutions, NBFIs, have increased the probability of a more entrenched slowdown," Moody's analysts said in a report. In 2017, the ratings agency upgraded India's sovereign rating to Baa2 from Baa3, the lowest investment grade rating. It was widely seen as an endorsement for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's reform agenda. But in the Thursday report, Moody said it considers the prospects for effective implementation of such reforms to have diminished since its upgrade of India's sovereign rating in 2017. And I quote, "In the absence of such reforms, structural constraints on productivity and job creation will weigh further on India's sovereign credit profile," Moody's said. The latest report said prospects of further reforms that could support investment and growth at high levels and broaden India's narrow tax base have diminished. So let's talk about this, John. I think that this says a lot more about what's coming in the near future for India than just a simple, saying that it's they're looking at it in a negative way. I want you to go into this a little bit, because India, this goes a century back. There's so much that goes into it. We've gone into it much further in the past in more larger breakdowns, but this is about what the future brings for India. Can you go into this a bit?
Yeah, so with India, of course, what the problem has been is that, they have a lot of non-performing loans. And if we actually go, let me pull that up right now, Josh. If you go and look at the non-performing loans, so that's basically loans that's not going to get paid back, mostly. And they are up, they're currently laying at 11.2% officially. And of course, we've done a video where I think it was even higher. So the problem is with official numbers, they're never really the real numbers. They're manipulated down, they're watered down, so they look a lot better. But what is the most important thing here, you were talking about Moody's, of course, but with Moody's, they're okay still as a rating. But then if you go and look at the other ones, so if it's negative there, what tells that? S&P or the others, will look at it, putting a negative outlook on it. Because India is right at that point where you're right in between being, lower grade investment grade versus becoming speculative non-investment grade. So that is the big story here, is that, if India actually gets downgraded by just S&P and others to that point where they become just speculative grade and not investment grade, pension funds, everybody would just not even touch them. So that is the biggest problem, that, of course, won't create growth because nobody would invest in India, and the Ponzi scheme will just fall apart. So that is the major problem in India, is that, the rating, of course, how much are we going to trust these ratings? It's pretty funny. But the actual ratings in India, they're looking pretty bleak when it comes to, getting any investment money from the big guys, the sovereign wealth funds and the pension funds and so on.
Right, and I mean, as we've talked about before, they've tried to push into that cashless society. It hasn't been really, effective because obviously people haven't been supportive of it. But what I find interesting is over the last several years, they tried so hard to do this, and we know why they tried to do that, because they have to cover their butts for the impending, not just recession. This is much bigger than it's just a recession, folks. A complete collapse of their economy, and you have all these social programs. You have all these people that look at people like Moody as some kind of savior who's going to bring them in free things and help the poor and all that kind of stuff. Oh, you gave the homeless bank accounts. There's a reason why you did that. It's first of all, you print a bunch of currency. The wages aren't going to pay for those bills as well. No matter how much you raise the wages, it's still the money is diminishing in value. So going forward, John, you saw this desperation move of the cashless society where they can bail in without people being able to protect their money. You could track everyone like you do in China, another big competitor to India. And India is also set to surpass the U.S. economy in the next several years, next 5 to 10 years. So with that said, how stable is India's economy going forward?
Well, India's economy in itself, it's run by corruption and all this stuff. So, if you look at the economy itself, if you took away the government, because that's the problem, don't even count in that, the corrupt government into the equation. That's what everybody does. The economy in itself, I think it's fine. They're very, virtuous. They're able to, there's a lot of small, medium-sized business activity in India. So I think the economy in itself is fine, but the
people generally are the most productive there.
Yeah, exactly. They're very productive people. I know tons of Indians that super productive people. They work hard, so that is not the problem. But if you look at the debt levels and all of that in the economy, that is the problem. There's more and more debt that gets created. How they actually got into it is the same with China too. India isn't way as bad as China when it comes to printing the amount of currency and debt that they've done. China has gone up 40 times in just 18 years. India, I think it's somewhere around like 4 or 5 times or something, which is still pretty way too high. But I think with India, you're gonna see some serious issues there with economy stalling out, and you see this everywhere, Josh. Let me just touch upon quickly. We were just talking about Lebanon. They were struggling in the economy. You got Chile, you got massive protests in Chile, France. All across southern Europe.
Don't forget good old Argentina.
Yeah, and Hong Kong. So you're seeing these problems. They come from overprinting of currency by these governments, and that push to economic growth. You always hear that was economic growth outlook, right? How much can you increase the debt levels of the population? That's what that means, the economic growth. It's not so much about the actual creating valid economic activity. In a report that I just did on the U.S., for example, their corporate debt, Josh, so we're talking about investment grade versus non-investment grade, their corporate debts, all the corporations in the United States, 78-point-something% is rated speculative debt. In 2018, of all the debt that got issued, 78% in the United States. So you see like a trend worldwide now, where all this debt is turning sour because we hit, we talk about peak debt all the time, right? And when you hit that, you can't increase the debt levels anymore. There's no more debt to pay off the ever, increasing interest, because if we pay off all the debt, there will still be interest around. So that is the major problem. I think for India, it's twofold. The government is going to really struggle in India, with their push to cashless. They don't really have very much control like the Chinese have over their population. So I think the Indians are going to stand up, but the problem is going to be the economy in itself is going to super slow down, and there's too much debt.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, we have to remember that we have a global economy on the verge of complete collapse, because this isn't just one country or another, it's every country, and it's because of this global economic bubble that we've seen blown for all these years, and the derivatives bubbles worldwide, housing bubbles, pension bubbles worldwide. The global shortfall on pensions is absolutely absurd, and you continue to pile up these issues, and you realize that it doesn't matter even if the people within the economy are prosperous. When you print currency out of thin air, it always ends the same way, and we've seen this happen a million times before. I don't even know how many times fiat has failed, but it's failed every single time throughout history. That's a point. That's a point. And I think that going forward, the banks are all bankrupt around the world. Their cash to deposit ratio says that. So I think that we're on the verge of something really big, but the people on the ground, the more independent they are, the better off they're going to be. And I think we're seeing a lot of independent people, obviously, in places like India. You'll excuse us. We are standing in the sun. He's Norwegian, and
gold and silver.
Yeah, and we're here in Nevada at the Red Pill Expo.
Desert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, Josh.
Yeah, he certainly does, and so hence his hat being pulled over his eyes. But anyway, we're gonna get going right away. But I do want to mention some of the solutions as always because this is very important.
The most important part of the video, Josh.
It is. Hold on, there's more solutions than there are problems at the end of the day. So let's talk about that for a moment. There's self-responsibility, individual responsibility. You can't get more important than individual responsibility, folks. It comes down to you as an individual, not someone coming out of the shadows to save you, because usually it's a Hegelian dialectic, a problem, reaction, solution, repeat. You have government officials and banks coming in and being predators and basically sucking your blood, and you think they're helping. Yeah, they create the problem in the first place, and then they come in and they say, well, we'll fix the problem for you, and they shove you down a bottomless pit of debt, and it forces you to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing you into perfect servitude to them, exactly where they want you. But then, of course, there's food, water, shelter, self-defense, so you're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block, gold and silver as wealth insurance. It's not meant as an investment. This isn't investment advice. It's just about being able to preserve your purchasing power. And of course, decentralized, properly, fundamentally useful cryptocurrencies and blockchain infrastructure technology, folks. Most of it's terrible, but there's some that's really changing the world.
And currency, that's the future for that, to save, independent media and people being able to have free speech.
Yeah, and for people to being able to have free money and not be completely used, abused, and destroyed by the system that feeds off of the debt and the servitude of people and their families. And it's sick and it's disgusting, and it leads to the wars we see around the world. And we could go into this all day, but again, we are getting burned from the sun. So I think this will be where we wrap it up. I know a lot of people are quite jealous right now. They're like in Canada or Norway or somewhere in the world, and it's freezing. Yeah, and I'm going.
So don't worry.
I'm like, oh, it sure is hot here in November. Yeah, but anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us. We'll be back at you with much more. There's always so much to talk about here at WHAM, and we've got lots of videos coming. We're here at the Red Pill Expo, like I said. Yeah, there were 2 Red Pill Expos this year. It's been a good year, and we're going to be continuing to cover the conference. John has a speech that he did at the conference and on 5G, and just stay tuned for all of that, and make sure to check those links below. Press like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. YouTube censoring the F out of us. So make sure to watch that outro video coming up right away. Thank you, John, for joining us today. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here at WHAM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated, as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WHAM, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best Liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are two major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WHAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.